What is biodiversity and why is it important? Genetic diversity means the total number of genetic characteristics in genetic makeup of species. Species diversity equals number of species in an area and relative abundance. Trophic levels equals each of several hierarchical levels in an ecosystem. Endemism, species that occur only in a specific region. Ecosystem diversity means the variety of ecosystems occurring in a microhabitat through to biome. Biome, regional ecosystem, distinctive climate, distinctive biological community adapted to conditions. Primary productivity, synthesis of biomass by green plants using energy captured in photosynthesis. Distribution, physical factors, size of area. The overall biodiversity increases with the size of the area. History and age. Biodiversity is greatest in the oldest and least disturbed ecosystems. Isolation. This reduces species number but encourages endemism. Altitudinal range. Large altitudinal range means cross-section of different climates. This means more species diversity. Local factors. Succession. Biodiversity increases as species establish, interact and alter the environment. Species interaction means competition, which means possible extinction. Disturbance. Fires, flooding, storms can all destroy biodiversity. Dispersal, colonization. High rates of efficiency enhance biodiversity. Human factors. Well managed and conservation strategies equals a positive impact. A case study, Fynbos, South Africa. Major vegetation type of small botanical region known as Cape Floral Kingdom. Smallest and richest as it has 1,300 plants per 10,000 kilometers squared. Home to over 7,700 plant species, 70% of which are endemic. Plants adapted to Mediterranean climate, particularly heat and drought. The conservation of the area is a national priority. The threats are alien plant spread, commercial forestry with non-native plants, frequent bushfires, some arson, housing estate construction, and agriculture intensification. At present there are 12 nature reserves and 4 designated wilderness areas, and no development is undertook without special approval. The value of ecosystems. Provisioning services. Products derived directly from the ecosystem, e.g. timber, fruits, meat. Regulating services. Vital to functioning of earth systems. Cultural services. Aesthetic or spiritual enjoyment people draw from ecosystems. Supporting services. Nutrient cycling, soil formation and primary production vital to ecosystem well-being and provision of wildlife habitats. Case study, the value of coral reefs. Biodiversity. Coral reefs are home to over 25% of marine fish. Many species could die out before being discovered. Shoreline protection. Protects coasts from wave erosion and storm impact. They have ability to grow with rising sea levels. Food. Locals eat food from reefs and reefs provide 20% of commercial fishing. Population growth and high-tech commercial fishing putting pressure on the reefs. Medicine. Algae and sponges used in pharmaceutical industry. Corals used for bone grafts. Tourist magnets. More than 100 countries with coral reefs have attracted tourists. In 2008 there was an attempt of a monetary value on reefs of Tobago and St. Lucia, concluded the importance of reefs is complex and underestimated by the government, developers and population. Managing pressure from the fishing tourism is a complex process with important consequences for coral reefs. What are the threats facing the world's biodiversity? Over geological time, species die out from climate change, disease, competition, etc., and there are various ways of auditing threatened ecosystems. Economic scorecard. This is produced for the WRI and shows ecosystem ability to produce goods and services. Living Planet Indexed. This is produced by the WWF and monitors population of animal species changes over time in forests, freshwater and marines. Ecological footprint, measure of human impact on planet. Red list of endangered species. This is compiled by the IUCN and has identified over 16,000 plant and animal species endangered of extinction. Millennium Ecosystem Assessment, multi-scale assessment by the UN. Human threats, lack of protection, high poverty levels, direct flora-fauna exploitation, hunting and fishing, overharvesting, deforestation, human population growth, rate of development and use of technology. Climate change. The Stern Review argues that climate change will occur too rapidly for species to adapt. Recent research suggests that a 0.05 to 0.1 degree rise will be more than species can withstand, meaning that they can't move fast enough polewards. Global warming means that temperatures will rise, rainfall changes, extreme weather events, sea level rises, and there will be a risk from pests and diseases. Local threats. Fire was once widely used in Europe and North America to clear forests for settlement and development. Essential part of slash and burn farming practices. Large scale causes biodiversity loss. Arson is a major threat as it can destroy rare ecosystems and species. Galapagos. The Galapagos Islands qualify as a hotspot. They have a huge range of invasive species introduced from Ecuadorian mainland by people wanting to make money from fishing and tourism. 60% of endemic plants are now threatened, 490 introduced insect species, 55 of which are high risk, 18 vertebrate species introduced, 13 considered harmful. New vertebrate species every year and aggressive species could establish on the Galapagos Islands. Actions have been taken to prevent biodiversity of Galapagos. Preserve biodiversity of Galapagos, removing rodents, feral cats and quinine tree, and other pressures as well as tourism. Zebra mussel, introduced accidentally from Caspian Sea to North America, carried either by ships' ballast water or by clinging to sides of ships. In absence of predators, they multiplied in lake air by 70,000 per metre squared and reduced phytoplankton by 80%. As mussels grow on each other shells, they block water intakes and power stations have to shut down for cleaning. The ruddy duck, introduced intentionally from North America to Gloucestershire, some escaped and colonised lakes and ponds in Europe as well as the UK, not worrying until it was discovered that the ruddy duck was breeding with endangered white-headed duck, and since then there has been a programme to eliminate the ruddy duck. Impact on nutrient cycling. Human activities have an impact on the size of the store, deforestation, or where there has been soil erosion, desertification. Indirectly, pollution such as acid rain can destroy nutrient cycling process. Humans can also add nutrients by fertilization of soil, and in some cases this leads to over-fertilization and eutrophication. Impact on energy flows. As energy is lost through respiration, at each stage of the process, the amount of biomass at every trophic level decreases. Human actions can impact on any trophic level or food web, which can affect others. General links between economic development and ecosystem degradation. It is important to distinguish destruction, this is total clearance, from degradation, this is loss of quality. These are usually linked, but some large ecoregions not decreased in extent but have become very degraded. This is the case in many African savannas and rainforests. Reality is much more complex as so much depends on the players and pressures. A possible relationship. Adsungwa Mountains National Park. Case study. This has a remarkable biodiversity, 276 tree species, 50 endemic, 55 recorded animal species. It is rich in birds and floral variety. This provides villagers with watershed protection, medicines and food. The villagers are allowed controlled and limited access for worship. Collecting fuelwood and hunting is prohibited. There are pressures on the park. This is caused by population growth fueled by immigration. Tanzanian national park authorities recognise the need to get locals involved in bottom-up strategies. Crucial products include tree nurseries, fuel-efficient stoves and rice husk technology. Agricultural diversification products. These include beekeeping, poultry and vegetable farming, medicinal plant cultivation, and this provides employment. Non-farm projects include establishing micro-businesses, promoting ecotourism, and improving health and education services. Adzungwa proves that the difficulty of policing a vast area with skeletal ranger service succeeds in conservation if a sustainable development project for locals is developed to see the potential long-term benefits. Masai Mara Game Reserve Case Study. This experienced a breakdown in management which led to the decline of the grassland ecosystem state. Park fees paid by tourists and was meant for reserve protection and support for tribesmen on adjacent land, but little reached intended destination. Park rangers were underpaid, there was lack of CB radio and four-wheel drive, and they could do little to stop illegal hunting of animals that the tourists came to see. June 2008, the Mara Conservation took over, and a $300,000 gift purchased new vehicles, repaired roads, paid rangers. Support for Maasai people was crucial to the reserve future, as it required them to give up the best cattle grazing land for wildlife benefits. To what extent can the threats to biodiversity be managed? Sustainable yield. A key part of sustainable management, as it represents the safe level of harvest hunted, courted, utilised without harming individual ecosystem. Maximum sustainable yield. Greatest harvest taken while leaving ecosystem intact. Over-harvesting exploitation is the result of more commercial than subsistence farming. Optimum sustainable yield. This is the best compromise available in economic and social considerations. Unlike maximum sustainable yield, this will not destroy the aesthetic and recreational value of an ecosystem. Case study: Campfire, Zimbabwe. Under British colonial rule, the indigenous population were forced to live in tribal trust lands. The campfire project development in the late 80s was aimed at development management, sustainable use of natural resources in each communal area. This was achieved by placing responsibility with the local people and allowing communities to benefit from exploitation of, e.g., wildlife. They were bottom-up schemes, so varied. Many made money from big game hunting at sustainable levels, and the money was fed back into the community. However, the scheme was deemed controversial as environmentalists did not believe in game hunting. The economic collapse of Zimbabwe undermined scheme, and loss of staff, local hunger, and land takeovers all contributed to the collapse. Conservation. So far concentrated on in situ, an alternative is ex situ. This includes captive breeding with release, biodiversity banks, this is genetic and seed in zoos, botanic gardens, which has saved species such as giant panda. Ex and in situ conservation are not rivals but work together to increase endangered population and re-establish near extinct ones. Zoos directly link with protected areas. Captive stock can be used to educate on hotspots, endemism and endangered species. Captive breeding buys time but releasing is problematic. Biosphere reserves. Today, much more attention is given to the design and distribution of reserves, e.g. in climate change era, current thinking favours creation of large reserves connected by open corridors running in north-south direction, as this allows maximum species migration driven polewards by global warming. There is also discussion about priorities, with hotspots being the main one, as they contain endemism and maximum diversity. High-profile species tend to attract more money, and the WWF favours ecoregions. Restoration. Restoration of highly degraded areas is the ultimate challenge. Can include recreating wetlands, linking small fragile reserves to make large stable ones. They require costly land purchases, so has to benefit local schemes. Restoration of derelict sites even more expensive, as the area is reconstructed virtually from scratch. A lot depends on how quickly plants reseed and how protected the land is. Total protection. In the 21st century, total protection means more than just guarding species in fenced areas. Economic development is used with biodiversity conservation using sustainable strategies. This is forest management, ecotourism, all adapted and involve locals. Strategies have been criticised as they are often focused for scientific purposes and they often rely on outside agencies which may not know the needs of locals. The global players are campaigning NGOs. Greenpeace carried out scientific campaigns, e.g. Save the Whale/RSPB. TNCs. Development industries transnationally. Develop industries transnationally. They all have environmental reports, and decisions on exploiting can have an impact on biodiversity, in rainforests especially, and collecting plants for research can affect the gene pool. They can sponsor conservation schemes and promote biodiversity. National players. These are national governments, e.g. DEFRA, which can aim to provide well-managed countryside and conserve wildlife. Scientists and researchers. These work for agencies to provide data for biodiversity management and are often based in universities. Local players. These are communities. Develop sustainable management and work together to save the local ecosystems using bottom-up schemes to resolve conflicts. Local governments. These manage local reserves in co-op with Wildlife Trust. Individual players. Farmers. These manage the environment for food consumption and friendly farming. This means adding to biodiversity. Consumers. These make decisions about own consumption. They can be eco-tourists and they can be environmentally friendly when food buying. Artists and writers. These provide media to make people aware of issues. Millennial Ecosystems Assessment. The MEA anticipates 4 possible scenarios. Global orchestration. A globally connected society which focuses on trade and economic liberalisation. It takes strong steps to reduce poverty and inequality. It invests in infrastructure and education, and economic growth is highest in this scenario. Order from strength. Regionalised and fragmented world concerned with security and protection, emphasises regional markets and little attention is paid to public goods. Economic growth is lowest in this scenario. Adapting mosaic. Regional ecosystems are the focus of political and economic activity. Societies develop proactive approach to ecosystem management, and economic growth rates are low but increase over time. Technogarden. A globally connected world reliant on environmentally sound technology, highly managed, engineered ecosystems, takes a proactive approach to ecosystem management. Economic growth rates are high and accelerate. The WWF anticipates 4 possible scenarios on an attempt to model ways of ending ecological deficit. Business as usual. This leads to high ecological footprint and no decrease in the degree in which consumption exceeds biological capabilities. Slow shift. A gradually reducing ecological footprint by development of sustainable policies, so capacities recover by 2100. Rapid reduction. These are radical policies, which means they reduce ecological footprint and eliminate the overshoot by 2040. Shrink and share. This is breaking well down in ecoregions and to control overshoot in responsibility of global cooperation.